started with something simple, a song. Or at least that's what I was going for. I was in the kitchen, reaching for the tablet to cue up a dinner playlist. Haley was already slicing vegetables at the island, the familiar rhythm of her knife tapping against the cutting board. We weren't talking much that evening, just the usual post-work silence. She was humming something under her breath, a tune I couldn't quite place. It should have been a normal night, but the tablet was still unlocked. The screen was lit, and the gallery app was open, not just open but paused on a photo I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed it was one of ours, something from a weekend hike or a friend's birthday. We've got hundreds of random **TS cluttering that device. But this one hit differently. I leaned in, the image coming into sharper focus. It was Haley, all right, sitting at a little corner table in some cafe I'd never seen before. The lighting was warm, the kind of amber glow that flatters skin and softens every line. She looked good, really good. Her hair was done differently, softer, curled at the ends like she used to when we were still dating. She was smiling, leaning forward with her chin slightly tilted, and her hand. This was the part that got me. Her hand was resting gently, almost casually, on another man's wrist. His face wasn't fully in frame, just his arm, part of his chest, and a half-smile caught in the curve of the photo. He looked relaxed, comfortable, like this wasn't the first time they'd sat across from each other like this. Then I noticed the text beneath the photo. It wasn't a file name or a timestamp. It was a caption, something typed in manually. "Don't forget tomorrow." Just like last time. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, and for a second, I think I forgot how to breathe. That caption looped in my head like a line from a bad dream. Tomorrow just like last time. What the hell did that mean? What was last time? Where was this? Who the hell was this guy? I told myself not to jump to conclusions. That I didn't have the whole story. That maybe, somehow, this had an innocent explanation. But then, why did I feel like I just walked in on something I wasn't meant to see? I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there in the kitchen watching her from the side. The way she moved. The casual lift of her hand as she pushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her ring, my grandmother's ring, wasn't on her finger. That was new. I walked around the counter, holding the tablet out like evidence in a courtroom. Haley glanced up from the cutting board, her expression unreadable. Not surprised. Not guilty. Just aware. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She looked down at the screen. Didn't even flinch. "Oh," she said. Like I just asked her if she'd remembered to buy almond milk. "That's just Noah from work. We were rehearsing a scene for Jenny's birthday thing. You know, that party next week? It's supposed to be like an interactive murder mystery or something. The marketing team thought it'd be fun to act out little skits. That photo was part of it." She went back to slicing the avocado. I didn't move. My grip on the tablet tightened. "Rehearsing?" I repeated, more to myself than to her. "A scene. For a party." She nodded, not looking at me. "Yeah. Jenny's turning 40. Remember? Big surprise thing. I didn't mean for that picture to be saved. It was just part of the concept." I stared at her for a moment, at the way she just didn't blink, the calmness in her voice, the ease, like she was explaining why she left the porch light on. But that caption, just like last time. I've been married to Haley for almost 7 years. I know her tells, the way she tugs her ear when she's anxious, the way her voice pitches up half a note when she's caught in a lie. But this version of her? She was unreadable. Still, almost rehearsed herself. I should have said more. Asked questions. Demanded names, times, context. But instead, I just nodded, not because I believed her, but because I didn't trust myself to speak. Not right then. I walked back to the dining table and sat down. She kept chopping. That photo didn't leave my mind for the rest of the night. I could still see her smile in it, the softness in her eyes, the closeness between them. It didn't feel like rehearsing. Felt like nostalgia, like familiarity. And that sentence, God, that sentence. "Don't forget tomorrow." Just like last time. That's not something you write about a corporate skit. That's something you say when you're making plans to repeat something you don't want forgotten. Maybe that's what scared me the most. Not the picture, not even the man, but the possibility, the whisper of a second life, running parallel to the one I thought we shared. Later that evening, I sat alone in our bedroom while Haley showered. I stared at the wall across from our bed, counting the grooves in the wooden paneling, listening to the sound of running water, trying to figure out when exactly things started to drift. She hadn't asked me why I was upset. She hadn't even tried. And somehow, that silence said more than anything she could have made up. Looking back, the signs were there, like scattered puzzle pieces I refused to assemble. At the time, I told myself it was stress, deadlines, her boss being a jerk again, life getting in the way. But now I see it for what it was. The beginning of the end had already started. I just wasn't ready to admit it. It started subtly. Haley used to text me little things throughout the day. A funny meme, a random question about dinner, or a simple thinking of you. But then it turned into silence. I'd text her, and hours would pass without a reply. When I asked, she'd say she was slammed at work, or that she'd seen it but forgot to answer. I wanted to believe her. She stopped making our morning smoothies. Not a big deal, right? But that was our thing. She'd hum her way through the kitchen, talk about random dreams she'd had, hand me my drink and kiss me goodbye. Then one day she just didn't. No explanation. I picked up the slack, made them myself for a while. She rarely drank hers, said it was too cold or that she wasn't in the mood. Then came the late meetings. She used to be home by 6. Always. We'd start dinner together. She liked trying new recipes. But then she started texting around 5:30, running late, stuck in back-to-backs. Clients being difficult, don't wait up. Going to grab a drink with the team, networking. It started happening once a week, then twice, then almost every other night. The weird part? When she came home, she wouldn't talk about her day. Just said she was tired, drained. Sometimes she'd go straight to the shower, even if it was close to midnight. A few times I'd find her in there long after the water had stopped running, just sitting on the edge of the tub wrapped in a towel. That's when I started keeping count. Once, 11:47 p.m. Twice, 12:23 a.m. 3 times, 2:02 in the morning. I asked if something was wrong. She smiled, kissed my forehead, and said I was being cute and paranoid. Then she rolled over and fell asleep. Another night, I found her wedding ring on the bathroom counter. No big deal, people forget. But when I brought it to her, she waved it off. I didn't want to lose it at yoga, she said. It's hot yoga, and I sweat like a pig. Except that class ended at 6. And she didn't get home until 9:15. And she smelled like someone else's cologne. I asked who she'd gone with. She said, just the girls. Which girls? Ugh. You don't know them, babe. That phrase stuck with me. You don't know them. She stopped asking about my day. Conversations became clipped, functional. She'd ask if I'd paid the gas bill, if I'd moved the laundry, if I'd confirmed with her mom about Easter. But never once, how are you? She used to curl up next to me on the couch, legs tucked under a blanket, her head resting on my shoulder while we watched old movies. Then, she started sitting at the other end, scrolling through her phone. She'd say she was multitasking, then disappear into the guest room to focus better. One night I walked in and saw her quickly lock the screen. She said she was reading an article. It was Tinder. She forgot to close it. I didn't say anything. I told myself maybe it was just a pop-up. Maybe someone had used her phone. Maybe I was grasping at anything. Any lie that made the situation less real. Because if I let myself believe what I was seeing, then everything we built would start crumbling. And I wasn't ready for that. There was another moment, one I still play in my head. It was a Saturday afternoon. She was doing laundry, and I walked up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. No agenda, just wanting to feel close. She froze. Her whole body stiffened like I'd touched a stranger. Can you not? She whispered, gently pulling my arms away. I need space today, okay? I backed off, hands up, trying not to show how much it stung. She didn't even look at me when she said it. A few minutes later, I heard her laughing on the phone in the bedroom, her voice light, flirty. I stood outside the door, listening like a coward. When I walked in, she pretended she was talking to her sister. But her sister lives in Australia. It was 3 a.m. there. Even then, I didn't press. I just let it slide like I always did. Maybe that's my fault. Giving her all this slack, believing that love meant patience and patience meant silence. I kept waiting for things to go back to normal, for the tension to snap and for her to collapse into my arms and say she was sorry, that she was overwhelmed, that she missed me too. Instead, I got more space, more quiet, more excuses, and the distance between us grew so gradually that it felt natural, like erosion. You don't notice the cliffs disappearing until you're standing on the edge. It wasn't all coldness. There were still flickers of the old Haley, the way she'd hand me a towel when I got out of the shower, the quiet way she still covered me with a blanket when I fell asleep on the couch. But it all felt obligatory, like muscle memory, not affection. And yet, I clung to those scraps, told myself, see, she still cares. I didn't realize I was just holding on to echoes. I think the worst part wasn't the absence, it was the shift, the subtle rewrites of our story, the new routines she created without me, the privacy she demanded in a life we were supposed to share. I once asked her, "Are we okay?" She said, "Of course." But she didn't look at me when she said it. That's when I started checking her location history on the tablet. Not proud of it, but I needed something, anything, to ground me in reality. She told me she had a team dinner near the office one night. The map said she was at a boutique hotel near the airport. She got home late, said the dinner ran long. I nodded and offered to heat up leftovers. She said she wasn't hungry, said she ate too much. Then she kissed my cheek and walked away. I stood there, alone in the kitchen, listening to the buzz of the fridge, trying not to scream. I told myself maybe there was a reasonable explanation, a mix-up in the GPS, a driver's error. But I knew better. I knew. I just didn't want to believe it. That's what made it worse. Not the betrayal itself, but the quiet horror of knowing and choosing not to see it. I buried the truth beneath routine, pretended that loyalty meant waiting for the storm to pass. But storms don't pass on their own. They swallow everything. And somewhere deep down, I was already drowning. Friday. That was the day she chose. Not that she said it outright, but I could feel the shift in her voice when she brought it up during breakfast. She had her mug in both hands like she always did, eyes down, voice casual. "I'll be out of town Friday," she said. That leadership conference in Bellevue finally confirmed the dates. "Since when?" I asked, reaching for the orange juice. She shrugged. "Got the email late last night. Sorry, I meant to tell you." I nodded, though something already felt off. Bellevue? That was 2 hours away. Close enough to drive, far enough to make it feel like an overnight getaway. Still, I said nothing. Just gave her a faint okay, and kept chewing my toast like my world wasn't already half collapsing. I told her I'd be heading to Tom's for the weekend. My brother. We hadn't made plans. But I needed something to say, just in case she was keeping tabs on me too. She smiled. "Tell him I said hi." That night, I didn't pack a bag. Didn't drive anywhere. I stayed right where I was. In our house, lights off, blinds drawn. Waiting. 10:02 p.m. That's when the garage opened. I'd parked my car a block away to keep the driveway clear. Made sure the Ring doorbell was off, so it wouldn't alert her. I stayed low by the staircase as I heard the soft echo of footsteps. Then the jingle of keys dropping into the dish by the door. Laughter followed. A man's voice. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my jaw. I crept up the stairs, skipping the one that creaked, and stood outside the bedroom. The door wasn't fully closed, just slightly ajar like some half-hearted defense. Light spilled out through the gap. I heard a cork pop, glass clink, more laughter, then silence. I pushed the door slowly, just enough to see. And there it was, Haley, in her underwear, sitting on the bed with one leg tucked under the other like she was perfectly at home. Her hair was damp, freshly showered. There was a bottle of wine on the nightstand, half full. 2 glasses. Hers was in her hand. And him. Same man from the cafe photo. Same rolled-up sleeves. Same easy posture. He was sitting close. Too close, his hand resting on her waist like it belonged there. Like I had never existed. She didn't scream. She didn't gasp. She froze, her eyes locking with mine in the mirror above our dresser. There was a beat of pure, sharp silence. Then she stood, wine glass still in hand, and said the one thing I'll never forget. You were supposed to be at Tom's. Just like that. Not, I'm sorry. Not, this isn't what it looks like. Just logistics. I felt like I was underwater. Like my ears were ringing from a blast no one else heard. You were supposed to be my wife, I said, barely recognizing my own voice. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The man beside her stood slowly, holding up one hand like a referee stepping into a fight. Look, man, I think we should talk. I didn't know. Don't. I cut him off with a glare. Don't pretend this is salvageable. Haley stepped between us, hand on the guy's chest like she was protecting him from me. This isn't helping, she said. Let's all just calm down. Calm. I laughed short and sharp. You brought someone into our bed. Calm was 10 miles ago. She didn't deny it, didn't cry. She just stood there, mouth tight, eyes darting. Put some clothes on, I said. I want him out of my house in 5 minutes. He glanced at her. She gave a small nod. He started gathering his things, belt, phone, keys. I watched it all like I was outside my own body, like this was some scene from a show I never auditioned for. When he walked past me, he whispered, sorry. I didn't move. He left. And then it was just the two of us. The silence, the wine, the ghost of a marriage hanging in the air. She sat back on the bed, now dressed in an oversized shirt. My shirt. I stood by the door, arms crossed. Say it, I said. She looked confused. Say what? The truth. She hesitated. I don't know what you want me to say. Start with how long. She sighed, rubbed her forehead like I was giving her a headache. It's not serious. It was just a mistake. I snapped. That what you're going with? No, she said quickly. I mean, yes, but not like that. Just stop, I said, walking out of the room before I said something I couldn't take back. I sat on the couch for hours, just breathing, listening to the clock tick. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't angry. I was hollow. Sometime after midnight, she came downstairs. You can't just walk away from this, she said softly. I looked up at her. You already did. She didn't argue. She just walked back upstairs. And I let her. The next morning, it was like nothing happened. I came downstairs and found her in the kitchen, hair up, robe tied, frying eggs like it was any other Saturday. The smell of breakfast made me nauseous. She glanced up as I walked in, offered a faint smile like we were still pretending. Can you take my car in today? She asked, flipping a yoke. It's making that weird noise again. I didn't answer. She kept going. Oh, and could you pick up my dress from the cleaners? I think it's ready, the blue one I wore to Sarah's wedding. Also, don't forget to get flowers. We have dinner with my parents tonight. You remember, right? Still I said nothing. She turned around, spatula in hand, and finally looked at me. What's wrong? I stared at her. Don't ask me for anything, I said, voice calm. Not today. Not anymore. She blinked, laughed, like she didn't understand the joke. But I wasn't joking. She stopped laughing. You're serious? I am. She leaned on the counter. You're mad. I get it. But last night, it was stupid, okay? We'd had wine and don't. I cut her off. Don't turn this into a wine problem. I'm just saying. I heard everything I needed to hear when you said, you were supposed to be at Tom's. Her face went pale. You had a plan, I continued. You expected me to be gone. You were comfortable bringing another man into our home, into our bed. So no. You don't get eggs and errands and apologies now. She crossed her arms. So what, you're going to punish me? Be petty? No. I'm going to have self-respect. She scoffed. Please. Like you haven't messed up in this marriage too. I raised an eyebrow. You're comparing forgetting to take the trash out with cheating? She opened her mouth, then closed it. This isn't a fight, I said. This is me drawing a line. She leaned against the fridge, eyes narrowed. You're not as innocent as you think, you know? Then go make a list, I said. Start writing down all the things I did wrong. While you're at it, write down the name of the guy from last night. Maybe put it in your phone under networking. The spatula dropped with a clang. I made a mistake, she said. One. It didn't mean anything. Good, I replied. Then letting it go shouldn't be so hard. We stared at each other for a long time. No yelling, no tears. Just the cold, brutal knowledge that something fundamental had snapped, and neither of us could pretend it hadn't. That afternoon, I didn't take her car in. I didn't pick up the dress. I didn't buy flowers. I sat in the guest room with the door closed, sipping cold coffee, staring at the wall. My phone buzzed twice. A reminder from her calendar app, shared between us. Dinner with Mom and Dad, 7 p.m. I ignored it. She didn't bring it up again. At 6:45, I heard the front door open and close, her heels on the pavement, the car starting. She went alone. She stayed gone most of the night. I figured she'd try to flip the script, make it look like I was the one unraveling, the one who couldn't handle a mature conversation. That's how she played things. Calm voice, lawyer words, endless references to boundaries and communication. But this wasn't about boundaries. This was about betrayal. And I was finally done pretending I was okay with it. When she came home around midnight, I was still awake. I didn't say anything, just watched her walk in, drop her purse on the floor like always. She paused when she saw me in the hallway. Dinner was fine, she said, clearly expecting me to ask. I didn't. She hesitated, then added, They asked about you. I nodded once. What did you tell them? She shrugged. Said you were under the weather. Nice, I said. Lying comes easy now, huh? She flinched, just barely. Do they know? I asked. Know what? What you did. Silence. Then she said, It's private. I gave a short laugh. Private? You made it public the second you brought someone into my house. Her tone hardened. So what now? You're gonna walk around acting like you're better than me? No, I said. I'm gonna walk around like someone who knows who he is, who he isn't, and who he refuses to become just to keep this thing going. She folded her arms. So that's it? You're done? Not done, I said, but different. From now on, we don't pretend. No more everything's fine. No more fake smiles at family dinners. No more me carrying this marriage like it's a chore you forgot to help with. She didn't answer. I stepped past her, toward the stairs. And next time you make breakfast, I said without looking back, make it for one. The invitation came via text. Hey, Mom and Dad want us over for dinner Sunday. Just us, no cousins. 6 p.m. Don't make it weird. That last line, don't make it weird, said everything. Translation. Play nice. Say nothing. Smile through it. Help me patch this over. Haley hadn't apologized again since our conversation in the kitchen. She didn't mention the man from the bedroom. Didn't cry. Didn't confess. Instead, she shifted into PR mode. Clean clothes, polite tones, morning smoothies again. As if routine could erase what she'd done. But I wasn't playing along. I thought about not going. Letting her explain my absence. Watching her juggle her cover story on her own. But something told me this was bigger than her. That this dinner wasn't just about appearances. It was her first real test. A performance. And I needed to be in the front row. So I went. We arrived separately. I made sure of that. She pulled up first in the silver crossover her dad helped her finance. Stepping out in her presentable daughter mode. Slacks, flats, warm sweater, hair pinned up, not a single thing out of place. I pulled in 5 minutes later, parked at the curb, and sat in the car for a moment before walking up the driveway. The air was colder than usual for spring. Fitting. Inside, her parents greeted me like always, polite smiles, tight hugs. Her mom, Diane, was already setting the table. Her dad, Alan, gave me a firm clap on the back. "Good to see you, son," he said, which hit differently now. Haley was in the kitchen pouring wine. Red for her mom, white for herself. She handed me a glass like a waitress, all efficiency, no warmth. We made small talk. I asked about Alan's hip surgery, Diane's gardening. They asked about work, home projects, the dog we didn't have. Haley smiled and nodded in all the right places. It was a show. During dinner, I barely touched my plate. Chicken, asparagus, potatoes, all cooked perfectly, because Diane didn't tolerate mediocrity. The kind of meal where you were expected to compliment the seasoning, ask for seconds, and pretend everything was normal. Haley played her part well. Laughed at her dad's bad jokes. Complimented the potatoes. Made eye contact with her mom like nothing was festering beneath the surface. I stared at my fork. Halfway through, Diane turned to me with a curious expression. "So, how are you two doing?" she asked casually, like she wasn't setting a trap. Haley jumped in. "We're good. Things have been busy, but we're working through it." Diane didn't look at her. She looked at me. "Is that true?" she asked. Calm. Direct. I set my fork down. "Depends what you mean by good," I said. The silence hit instantly. Alan cleared his throat. Diane leaned back in her chair. Haley stiffened like she'd been slapped. "Mark," she said under her breath. Warning tone in full effect. "No, it's okay," Diane said, still looking at me. "We're adults. Let's talk like adults." Haley's jaw clenched. "Mom, did you cheat?" Diane asked point blank. "Yes or no?" I watched Haley's face drain of color. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. "It's complicated," she said finally. "Relationships are private. They evolve. There are boundaries." Diane raised a hand. "Did you cheat?" Haley's lips trembled. "I made a mistake." "That's a yes," Alan muttered. Diane exhaled. "You could have told us." "I wasn't ready," Haley said quietly. "No," Diane replied. "You weren't honest." Haley's eyes filled with tears. She turned to me, desperate. "I didn't want to hurt anyone." "You did," I said. "You hurt everyone in this room." No one spoke after that. Dinner ended in silence. Diane didn't offer dessert. Alan walked me out without a word. As I stepped outside, I heard Haley's voice behind me. Low, panicked, grasping. "Wait, Mark, please." I turned. She stood in the doorway, arms folded against herself. "You didn't have to say it like that." "Say what?" "Everything. You made me look like—" "I didn't make you look like anything," I said. "You did that on your own." She looked down. "I just wanted a chance to explain," she whispered. "You had one," I replied. "Last week, last night, every day since." Her voice cracked. "I still love you." I looked at her, really looked, and felt tired. "You love the idea of me," I said. "Not me." She shook her head. "You're wrong." "Then prove me wrong," I said. "But start by being honest with yourself." She didn't follow me to the car. She just stood there, framed in the porch light, like a ghost in the doorway. And for the first time since this started, I felt no pull to go back. No guilt, no ache, just silence. And maybe, just maybe, peace. 2 days later, she snapped, said I didn't respect her, that she deserved more. I said nothing, just calmly set down 3 things. A bank statement, the divorce papers, and the rental car key labeled canceled. Her face went pale. "This is too much," she whispered. I met her eyes. "You wanted more? Start with nothing." A month passed. She wrote letters, begged for closure. Said her friends pushed her, that she missed being desired. I never replied. The house was quiet again, no games, no tension. Sometimes, peace doesn't need revenge. just a door that finally closes.